Willow Creek was a quaint small town that seemed frozen in time. Nestled between rolling hills and verdant forests, it was the kind of place where everyone knew each other's names, and the local diner served as the gathering spot for gossip and news. But beneath its idyllic surface, Willow Creek harbored a dark secret, one that would shatter the town's tranquility forever. It started on a crisp autumn morning when 25-year-old Sarah Jenkins was found dead in the town square. The police were called, and Detective Sarah Miller, a seasoned investigator with a sharp mind and a troubled past, was dispatched to Willow Creek to take charge of the case. Miller arrived at the scene, her eyes scanning the quaint streets and buildings that seemed to be watching her every move. She was met by the town's sheriff, Jack Harris, who briefed her on the situation. "It looks like an accident," Harris said, his voice laced with a hint of uncertainty. Sarah was walking home from a night out at the diner when something happened. Miller's instincts told her otherwise. As she began to survey the area, she noticed a few things that didn't add up. A torn piece of fabric caught in a nearby bush, a faint smudge on the pavement that seemed to be more than just dirt. "I don't think this is an accident," Miller said, her voice firm and authoritative. Harris nodded hesitantly. "What do you mean?" "It means someone killed Sarah Jenkins," Miller replied, her eyes locking onto Harris's, "and I aim to find out who." As the investigation unfolded, Miller discovered that Willow Creek was not as peaceful as it seemed. She found evidence of embezzlement at the local bank, a long-forgotten affair between two prominent town officials, and even a hidden underground club that catered to the town's most unsavory elements. John Thompson, the owner of the local hardware shop, became a prime suspect when Miller discovered he had been seen arguing with Sarah just days before her death. His alibi for the time of her murder was shaky at best, claiming he was at home alone, but refusing to let Miller in to verify his story. Meanwhile, Emily Carter, a young journalist from a nearby city, arrived in Willow Creek determined to uncover the truth behind Sarah's death. She started sniffing around town, asking questions and taking notes. When she stumbled upon an old diary hidden away in the local library's archives, her eyes widened with excitement. "This is it," Emily whispered into her phone as she called a source back at the city newspaper. "I've got the story of the year." The diary belonged to Sarah Jenkins herself, detailing a pattern of harassment and intimidation by several townspeople, including John Thompson, who seemed to be one of Sarah's most vocal tormentors. Miller received Emily's call and rushed to meet her in person. As they pored over the diary together, Miller realized that John Thompson might not have been the killer after all. "I think we've got a bigger problem here," Miller said, her voice low and urgent. Just then, Jack Harris stormed into the meeting room, his face red with anger. "You're making accusations without any evidence," he shouted at Miller. But I have evidence now," Emily replied calmly, holding up Sarah's diary. "And it points to someone else entirely." As tensions rose between Miller and Harris, a second piece of evidence came to light, one that would change the course of the investigation forever. A hidden security camera installed in Thompson's hardware shop had captured footage of the true killer. None other than Emily, Carter herself, but not in the way you'd expect. It turned out that Emily was actually working undercover for the city newspaper, using her story as a ruse to get close to the truth. And it seemed she had stumbled upon something much bigger than Sarah's murder, a web of corruption and deceit that went all the way to the top of Willow Creek's power structure. The confrontation between Miller and Emily was intense, but ultimately it led to a tense standoff in the town square where the true culprit was revealed. It was none other than Sheriff Jack Harris himself, who had been using his position to cover up the town's dark secrets for years. As the dust settled, Willow Creek began its long journey toward redemption and healing. Miller and Emily shared a moment of respect and understanding, two outsiders brought together by the darkness that lay beneath their surface. And as Miller packed her bags to leave Willow Creek behind, she couldn't help but wonder what other secrets this small town still harbored. Epilogue. A year after Sarah Jenkins's death, Willow Creek was transformed. Transparency and accountability had become its watchwords. John Thompson's hardware shop remained a staple of the community, and Emily Carter continued her investigative work, shedding light on the shadows that once hid in plain sight. Detective Miller returned to her city home, her mind still grappling with the memories of Willow Creek's hidden world. As she gazed out at the cityscape, she couldn't shake off the feeling that some secrets were better left unspoken, but that others would always be worth fighting for. The story ended here, but in the shadows of Willow Creek, whispers of a new mystery began to circulate. The end.